Hello and welcome to Slow Pit Stop, the international Formula One podcast by fans for fans all around the world. My name's Arafat, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host Mohammed. Say hi, Mohammed.
Sayonara, suckers.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. I'm apologetic to all of our fans who've had to wait this long for an episode. But we've had unique circumstances. Both of us have once again been on night shifts, and if you know anything about
Yeah.
the U.S. and the U.K., our nights are opposite. So we were literally not free at the same time.
No. It was very difficult to try and get a hold of each other last week. But did you have a good set of nights?
So I have one more week left, but the last week actually wasn't too bad. You know, I can't complain too much about it.
How long does it take you to switch back into being a daytime person?
You know, it used to take me an entire week, but I've done so many nights in these last 6 months. I've done like 3 months of these last 6 months have been nights. So now it takes me a day, one full day of grogginess, and the next day I'm back into daytime.
So I remember when I was at your stage, I used to do like a week of nights.
Yeah.
And then finish Friday morning, sleep, wake up for Jummah, and then I'd be like, right, I'm back. My body's like totally fine with this. I'm dealing with normal life. Now, I do a week of nights.
Yeah.
I wake up, and I'm like still tired for 3 weeks, and before I know it, my next set of nights has come around again.
I don't know how you do it. You have like kids, like that adds a whole level of difficulty.
I've discovered what I need to do. So the new game is, like, you sleep, you wake up, you feel tired, and then 8 p.m., the day after nights are finished, 8 p.m., 3 milligrams melatonin.
Oh,
and then by the next day, I'm
yourself
snapped back
out.
into a normal rhythm.
That's
Well,
funny
yeah,
that
because it's
you
not a
say-
sedative, is it? It just resets your body clock.
Mm-hmm.
So I get reset into a daytime rhythm.
So you stay up though? Like you don't like go to sleep? Oh man, see that's what I can't do.
I sleep for a few hours. I'll sleep again till like the afternoon.
Yeah.
And then I'll be tired for the rest of that day. But then 8, 9 p.m., take a melatonin, and my body clock is reset for the Saturday.
Yeah, that's a pretty good plan. I used to use melatonin as well when I started residency and didn't know how to sleep on time because before that you just sleep whenever you want because you're free and like. But yeah, I'm gonna go back to that. So it sounds like a good plan.
It's a very good plan. Shall we get into today's show?
Yes, let's do it. What are we talking about?
So we want to discuss a few things. Yeah. So we'll quickly touch on the news.
Okay.
A few things I want to. Actually, before I even get to the news, I want to have a new segment to the show called "What is Happening with Red Bull." That's a new segment. So we're going to do that before we get to the news. Then we'll touch on a couple of news items.
Real quick. Say, hold on. I want to create like a thing. Okay, say that again.
What is happening with Red Bull?
There you go.
Very good. And then we'll chat about a few little things like Ollie Bearman, Haas in the last race, Red Bull dominance, and then maybe I'll look ahead to Australia and how Lewis Hamilton's year's been going. So, what is happening with Red Bull? The vast majority of people that listen to this podcast are on Spotify. We're obviously trying to break into the world of YouTube just now. Let's see how well that's going for all 4 of our YouTube viewers. But yeah, so the Red Bull stuff. If you're listening to us, you already know all the drama that's going on with Red Bull. But here's my question, and here's the thing that I can't figure out, and I wanted to know what your thoughts are.
Okay.
The whole thing with the affair, not an affair, coercive behavior, text messages, whatever it was. I don't think that's the root issue. I think there's a power struggle going on between Thailand and Austria, and it seems to be the Thai camp is behind Christian Horner. The Austrian camp want him gone, and I think they're like Helmut Marko or whoever is releasing this damaging information about him to try and get rid of him. And when the independent investigation, whatever that was, didn't have him fired because he was cleared, then they released the text because they're like, no, we want to damage him as much as possible and have him gone. And then you've got what blows my mind, like Verstappen being like really lukewarm about Christian Horner, but being really like
gung-ho,
outspoken about defending Marco and things.
Super
the
weird.
Verstappen camp seems to be lined up with the Austrian camp, and this whole Game of Thrones, Civil War, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
I'm trying to work out. Like, I know we don't like Christian Horner, but from a company point of view, he's successful, right?
Yeah.
He's led Red Bull through a period of dominance with Vettel, and now he's doing it again with Verstappen. And if this was, I don't know, Mercedes or Ferrari, and someone within that organization was like, "We are losing. This is unacceptable. I'm going to kill the head of the organization and replace them," I'd get that. But while Horner is being successful and bringing money in, I can't work out why people are trying to get rid of him. I don't think people are trying to get rid of him because it's affair and the text messages and whatever. I think they're using that to try and get rid of him.
Yeah.
But also just, from a business point of view, like everyone that's ever had a job knows you have colleagues that you just don't like, but you recognize they're good workers, and you're like, for the sake of professionalism, I'm going to get on with you. But yeah, what do you think? Why do you think they're trying to get rid of Horner?
So I think Christian Horner fired the first bullet. I think he tried to get rid of Helmut Marko because he didn't like how much influence Helmut Marko had in the company and in deciding the future driver lineups and in the academy. And I thought maybe he thought that Helmut Marko's influence was too high, so he tried to get rid of Marko first. And then when that didn't work and probably backfired in his face, he tried, there's that rumor that he tried to buy the company itself or buy the Formula One division of Red Bull to secure himself, knowing that the blowback was coming. I don't know, what happened after that, but I think Helmut Marko realized Christian Horner's coming for my job, and then mobilized a group of people in the company that don't like Christian Horner. I don't know why that includes the Verstappens. The only thing I can think of is the Verstappens are neutral towards Horner, but like Helmut Marko because he gave them their entire job. Like, he gave Max his seat and he put him on his track. So they've, utilized them, and then they probably went through and, political campaigns in America. I don't know how in depth they go in the UK, but at least in America, they create these dossiers that are just like every bad thing you've ever done, and they have it on standby, ready to use against someone, and even from your own
political
team.
Campaigns. I create that about all my friends.
That's right. You don't want to see mine about yours, but I think they probably went ahead and did something like that, and they did a full dossier and said, "What is all the dirt we can find on Christian Horner?" Okay, in the 11th grade, he stole someone's, I don't know, wallet. Okay, they found all this kind of stuff. And then they found this complaint that somebody had probably lodged with HR, which had been ignored probably. And then they're like, "Hey, we can use this and we can weaponize it." And now Christian Horner, this is the blowback that he was probably expecting, but he still has allies himself, which is the Thai side. I think it's his allies, right? Yeah, it's the Thai side, and the other side doesn't like him, the Austrian. Ultimately, I have no idea how it plays out. I don't know why the Austrian side doesn't like him. I cannot put that, together. It's like the new head of the sport. But there's like so many teams have new heads of sport divisions that don't care about the team. Alpine has one, like Mercedes has one. Mercedes, I don't know. It makes no sense why they're like, yeah, I don't like Christian Horner. But I think the root of it all is a power struggle between Helmut Marko and Christian Horner, which is crazy because I hate them both equally.
Yeah, not a fan at all. Should we get into normal news and not Red Bull news?
Sure.
So Jerome D'Ambrosio has apparently left Mercedes to go to Ferrari. He was in charge of the driver development program or something. But what a lot of people said, he was being lined up to, being trained up as a possible replacement for Toto Wolff one day. So initially, a lot of people online were reporting this as a big win for Ferrari. Part of the Lewis Hamilton movement. It's a big, cross against Mercedes. But my favorite news source, as you know, Joe Sayward.
Yeah.
He reported he has a funny feeling that, Toto and Fred are best buddies. So he thinks, Jerome D'Ambrosio's family was finding it really difficult to settle in England because we're like garbage nation now. It's like just awful. But he wanted to go back to mainland Europe, and he says he wouldn't be surprised if Toto asked Fred to find Jerome a job. so that he could move back to Europe. So I don't know. I think that's kind of nice.
I really expected a max exodus of Mercedes personnel. I'm surprised it didn't happen. But then again, a lot of them have stuck around since Braun, so maybe they don't want to leave. But I really thought when Lewis left that he would that. I know he's got that clause that says he directly cannot speak with anyone, but I really thought people would leave with him. To me, I look at Mercedes as a sinking boat right now, and I would want to get off of it. Toto Wolff is going to stay there till the very end. If he was true about himself, he would replace himself with somebody else. But I was at least Bono. I thought Bono would move. Maybe that's still in the works. A lot of people have said it's out of the books because
I think
of
it'll be a long time before we work out what's going on.
Yeah. Well, we'll find out at least next year, like the basics. But yeah.
But I think I remember reading this thing last year about Fred Vasseurs' job, and he said, because all the teams are in England, like if you went from Mercedes to Red Bull, that's just down the road. If you went from Red Bull to Alpine, that's down the road again. It's it's very easy to move from the teams that are in England.
Yeah.
But Sauber have difficulty recruiting because they're in a different country altogether.
Where's Sauber?
And Switzerland.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And obviously the Italian teams. So Toro Rosso, whatever they're called now, and Ferrari. So he said, he spends like 25% of his time trying to recruit people. And I thought, hey, that he's got Lewis Hamilton going that direction.
Yeah.
Not so much that Mercedes would move that way, but Fred can now go to other people who are hungry and ambitious and say, we're taking this really serious. We don't just want to finish top 3. We're paying huge amounts of money for this like 7-time world champion. We're building something here. You be part of this. And what it reminds me of, sorry, got a bit of a cough. What it reminds me of is back in the day, it was like 2014. I needed to get this ultrasound qualification at work, right?
Okay.
And you had to go to a course and learn the theory of ultrasound. And there were some courses on, and they were charging like £400 to attend. Or they were all in England, and I was in Scotland, right? So they're all far away, or they were really expensive. So I was like, I'm going to put my own course on at my hospital.
Oh, wow.
So I spoke to the ultrasound company because the reps used to come and like show us the machines and whatever. And I said, hey, we're going to put her on our own course. Can you lend us 6-7 machines? Respiratory's on board, radiology's on board. Can you lend us some machines? And they were like, oh, well, yeah, if everybody's on board, of course we will. And then I went to the respiratory team and I said, hey, we got these machines. Radiology's on board to do the theory bit. Can you come and be the tutors? And they're like, well, yeah, I guess if everyone's on board, of course we will. And then I went to radiology and said, hey, respiratory's on board. They're going to be the tutors. We've got all this stuff from Sonosite. They're giving us the machines. Can you do the theory education bit in the morning? And they're like, well, yeah, I guess if everyone else is doing it, we'll do it too.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this is what politics is. So, because nobody wants to be the first person to go, right? But once you've convinced someone that something is happening, other people will join. And now Fred can use Lewis to say something is happening. And I don't think he wants to just take Mercedes. Because if Mercedes were that good, they wouldn't be where they are just now. I think he wants the best out of Alpine, the best from Red Bull, the best from Aston, get the best from everywhere and put together a dream team.
Yeah.
Now, if he can achieve that, who knows? Because it's a big ask. But Lewis is the first magnet, if you like, to try and attract these people in getting them to believe that you're serious and you're building something big.
Let me ask you this. In the United States, we have had multiple attempts at creating dream teams. In football, like U.S. football, it's been attempted on a number of occasions. Because in football, I think your guys' football is the same, but it's very easy to snag individual players and put them together into a team. Like, it's very easy to construct your own team as long as you have the money for it. So people have tried it in the past, putting together, the ultimate quarterback, the ultimate linebacker, the ultimate running back, blah, 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 and it doesn't work out. Has it been attempted in Formula One before, and has it worked?
Yes, but I also think people only recognize what the dream team is in retrospect. Because every team is trying to put together the best people, and then you go, hey, look how good that Ferrari combination was of Ross Brawn and Michael Schumacher and John Todt. in retrospect, you'd be like, hey, that was a dream team.
Yeah.
And then you look at like the Mercedes of James Allison and this and that, all of that, and you go, hey, look, they were amazing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't think anyone has specifically gone out to go, I want Adrian Newey, Fernando Alonso, Lewis Hamilton, all under one roof, and let's make this happen.
Well, the people on Twitter have. They definitely want it.
Yeah.
You have to remember that Adrian Newey built non-title winning cars for like 7 to 8 years. We all have to remember that. Yes, this era of domination has been in his wheelhouse, but he's not like the all-knowing, all-seeing person,
But yes and no. I think he's the aerodynamics guy. Because right now, aerodynamics are more important than anything. I think what Red Bull were hampered by was engine. They had the weakest engine with Renault. But Adrian Newey has won with Red Bull. He's won with McLaren. He's won with Williams. He's won all over the place. He's got more. He's like, what, 23 championships or something he's won? I can't remember.
Actually, you're right, because I remember now that like the Red Bull car kept blowing up every other day in all those eras. Like it was fast, but it just like fast but fragile. It just
slow in a straight line. It was fast in the corners, but slow in a straight line because they didn't have the power from the engine. They were like 20 horsepower down or something.
And then they switched away from Renault, and then I remember it was a whole thing. So I forgot about that. My F1 brain fog is real.
We're both so tired.
Yeah. I was gonna ask you about Lewis going to Ferrari. So, what do you think in his first year he should set to accomplish? Is it just get used to the team, get used to the workflow of Ferrari?
Yeah. So it's that thing of I don't know about working in Formula One, but as doctors we rotate from place to place to place.
Yeah.
And the way I say it is because we only go to places for a year, so it's like for the first 3 months, just watch, learn, listen, and the next 3 months, try and show who you are, get yourself a good reputation, and then the last 6 months, then you are embedded into the team.
Yeah.
You can start taking on leadership stuff. You can start saying, I think we should do this way because I've watched for the last 3 months.
Yeah.
The next 3 months, I've tried to prove to you who I am. Now I think this would be done better this way, or this would be done better this way. And they'll look to that from Lewis. They'll say, why was Mercedes winning? What did you the way James Vowles has gone to Williams and changing the systems there. Rather than, did you read that thing on the race about how Williams were using an Excel sheet to try and build their car?
No, what? Tell me about that.
I can't even get into it in the podcast. There's a really good article on the race about how Williams, he went there and he was like, they are 20 years behind everyone.
Wow.
And he goes, when you're trying to decide, okay, we need to build a front wing.
Yeah.
He's like, they just have an Excel sheet and you add it to the Excel sheet, one front wing, please. And it's like, but there's 400 parts for a front wing. And you have to be like, right, we need the metal bits and the carbon fiber bits and this. And he's like, and you go down to the floor and people are like, oh yeah, I built a front wing earlier. And you're like, where is it? And they're like, don't know. And you'd be like, you'd be walking around looking for it.
Wow.
And he's like, how is this a professional operation? So they've like now got real software to manage the logistics and workflows and things. So he said,
wow,
it feels like they've taken a step backwards in terms of performance because it could have just evolved last year's car.
Yeah.
But he's banned a lot of things that they used to do to be like, no, we're going to do this properly like a modern Formula One team. And he says it will pay off in the long term.
Yeah. I do like all my most important stuff on Excel. So I would be the guy getting replaced.
Literally before we started recording, I was just showing you an Excel sheet of all my work stuff. But anyway, where was it? Yeah. So they'll say, okay, what was done better at Mercedes? What can we learn? But to be able to come in and say, hey, I think this would work better this way, this way, this way, he needs to spend some time listening, learning, understanding the environment, understanding how to put yourself, who's the right person to talk to, how do you speak to them, and then proving himself. He'll want to get some podiums, he'll want to try and get a win. And I think once he's got a few of those things under his belt, he can say, right, if we want to win a championship, we need to do X, Y, Z.
Woo, I'm excited for that era. I want this year to be over already. What's the next news item?
Well, not just you. So the next news item, well, there's some boring news items. Alpine sell to Andretti, ? McLaren sell to Tesla, ? But Elon Musk is boring, so I'm moving on. So McLaren are thinking of selling their road car division to Tesla because it's a loss-making operation.
Really?
But yeah, whatever, who cares? The more fun news. So Audi completed their takeover of Sauber a year ahead of schedule. And this isn't just, hey, we're buying 50%. We'll think about it later if we want to buy more. Yes, no. They're like, no, we're buying 100%. We're all in just now. one of the major barriers to them buying in early was until they developed their engine, their car would have a Ferrari engine. And Mattia Binotto was like, there's no way I'm letting Audi have full control of a team that has our engine in the back of it. He's like, we're not having an Audi Ferrari car.
Yeah.
Whereas Fred Vasseur, who was the team principal of Sauber, now the team principal of Ferrari, is like, yeah, it's all good. Fine, whatever.
Why didn't he want an Audi Ferrari car? Is Audi that much of a rival to Ferrari?
I think it's just like, why give away your
Secrets?
like intellectual property? Yeah.
Okay.
But anyway, so what people are saying is this is a real show of commitment from Audi.
Yeah.
So remember, like my story at the beginning about the ultrasound course.
Yeah.
Like once someone's committed, the other people are like, oh, actually, because there was all this stuff about, oh, does Sainz want to go there? But if they just continued being Sauber at the back, why would Sainz want to go there?
Yeah.
Surely he would want to try and go to Mercedes instead or whatever else. But Audi coming in and saying, look, we're putting all our cash on the table.
Yeah.
Is that show commitment that might make better drivers say, hey, yeah, actually, we believe in this project in the long term. So who do you think are going to be the Audi drivers?
I'm definitely going to put Carlos Sainz in there, 100%. This guy's too talented to go to like a random team or lose his seat. And I think I'm going to remain with Zhou Guanyu at least for the beginning. He's not a bad driver. Like, you know, I think he's underrated, actually. You know, he came in, he had a solid rookie year, especially if you compare it to like Logan Sargent. He wasn't like crashing and spinning out, and he's gotten better since then. I think he is pretty good. He's pretty consistently beating Bottas, or at least has a good track record of staying even with Bottas. Granted, Bottas is on his way out. But I think Bottas loses his seat, and I think Carlos Sainz moves there, and I think that's our driver pairing. And I actually think at least for the beginning, and then maybe Zhou Guanyu gets replaced with somebody else. But I think that's how it works out. But it's interesting because we have all these different projects going on, right? The Sauber project, Aston Martin has a project going on. They're trying to build the team. Ferrari has a project going on. So it's interesting to see, who comes out on top.
Yeah, that's the thing about Dream Team. Whoever wins, in retrospect, will be like, oh, that was the Dream Team.
Yeah.
But word on the street is the favorite pairing is Carlos Sainz and Nico Hülkenberg.
Wow. Why? How? Why?
But that's the one that's most likely to occur. But the dream pairing, or the one they would like the most, is Carlos Sainz and Alex Albon. Which I think would be very, very strong.
It's not possible. You know why it's not possible? Because James Vowles has Alex Albon locked in a cage in the Williams basement.
Yeah.
He won't let him out to drive. He will not.
Yeah.
No other teams are allowed to look at him.
I think that's the thing. It's the James Vowles thing is making it difficult for them to negotiate with Alex Albon.
They'd have to give Haas. They'd have to give Williams like Ollie Bearman or something or Liam Lawson would be really good too.
Yeah.
Who we've all forgotten about collectively, but Liam Lawson would be great too. They'd have to give him something really good in return for Alex Albon. But that would be fast. It's really incredible to see Alex Albon, how he's thrived outside of the Red Bull mesh work. It's quite incredible.
I hope he gets himself into a race-winning car at some point. I really wanted him in Ferrari.
Oh, Arafat.
At some point.
This is the era of no other race-winning cars save Red Bull.
Yeah.
There's no different winners in a year. There's no surprise winners. It just doesn't happen anymore. I'll see you in 2032 when the next set of regulations happens, and then we have a new era of race winners.
Talking about winners and losers in races, should we talk about a few things that's been going on recently in the Formula One world? And you mentioned him just there 2 seconds ago, Ollie Bearman. What did you make of his performance?
First of all, I wanna prologue this by saying I'm not a race car driver. I have never been the top of my game at anything. Well, with one exception, there was a video game called Cube Runner. I was 14th best in the world for 1 week. That's the best I've ever gotten at anything in my life. But it's hard to look at Ollie Bearman and say that it wasn't impressive. I think it was impressive to score points on his debut. I think it is less impressive the fact that he's in a Ferrari doing that. Like, this is a car that should be on the second row of the grid. This is a car that should be finishing on the podium, which I think Charles Leclerc did finish on the podium. Actually, I don't remember who finished on the podium. It might have been Leclerc. So it's a car that should be up there. So, put Ollie Bearman in the 2020 Mercedes and see how he does. It's like that kind of thing. So I think it was really cool. I think it was a really nice feel-good story, but I think Liam Lawson performed better in a worse car. And I think he also scored points on his debut or in one of his second race or something in a much worse car. And so Ollie Bearman, I almost think that was expected. If he had not finished in the points, we would have been like, wow, what a wasted opportunity. So, but it's nice. It's a good feel-good story about the next generation coming up. But I really don't buy into the hype as much as everybody else does.
From his point of view, though, there was nothing else he could do. I think his objective was to not mess up.
Yeah.
The advice he was given was don't be a hero.
Yeah.
And he didn't mess up. He did everything that he was supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think, like you said, he's shown that he's reliable and could be ready should he be needed.
I don't know what his route into Formula One will be. I guess he was leading the F2 championship.
It'll be Haas for 2 years and then Ferrari when Lewis finishes. If he does well at Haas, or he'll get dumped from Haas. He'll have the Giovinazzi route.
Yeah, I wonder. That would probably have to be it. But I mean, it was impressive nonetheless. But yeah, I mean, this track, I don't know what happened to Saudi this year. The first year we raced in Saudi was incredible. And yes, a lot of that was because of drama between Lewis and Max. But the year after, it wasn't too bad either. I know Lewis was stuck in like P13. And then last year was significantly more boring. This year was like very boring. Like,
I think Red Bull are making things very boring. I want to compare some numbers and statistics.
Yeah.
There was an article online that I saw, I think it was from the race, where it was talking about weird things that have only ever happened once in Formula One.
Yeah.
And one of them was Narayan Karthikeyan finished 24th in a race in 2011.
Okay.
And I was looking at it because it had the final race classification in the article. And it was the top 7 completed all their laps. P8 onwards, getting points. P8 onwards were lapped, and then P19 onwards were lapped twice, and P23 and 24 were lapped 3 times.
Wow.
So imagine being lapped 3 times, right? And I wanted to compare the sort of qualifying time. Now, obviously, you can't compare track to track, but it's just the difference between first and last place. So at Saudi in Q1, Max Verstappen was 128.171. Slowest Logan Sargent was 129.526. So 128.1 to 129.5.
A minute,
right?
Difference? Oh, qualifying time.
Less than a second.
Qualifying time, yeah.
Less than a second. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, more than a second. But whatever. Like a second difference.
A second,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I went to that European Grand Prix from 2011. Vettel, Q1, his time was 139.116, and the slowest time was 144.363.
Wow.
Right? And then you just look at Q3, right? Q3 in Saudi just now. Max was 127.4, and Lance Stroll in 10th was 128.5. So again, a second gap between first and 10th, right? Back in the day, 2011, Sebastian Vettel 136.9, and then 7th place was 138.2. So 2 seconds. That was Michael Schumacher, so he's not a bad driver. And then 9th and 10th didn't bother setting a time because they knew they'd be so slow.
Wow.
So a second back from Vettel is P4, Fernando Alonso. So the gap is so much closer between all the other cars, but everything is so skewed and so boring because of how far ahead Red Bull is that it's making it look like there's no competition. And there was some F1 survey, I think the race ran it, and they were like, now that the season started, the majority of people are less excited for the rest of the season because they think Max is just going to win every race.
Yeah.
And I think that's a problem. And it's a real shame because actually in terms of these regulations, it's massively brought everyone else closer together. You would
I
go
think that's
into a
like a
season.
fake. I don't know, not fake. I think that's a misleading statistic. I've seen it too. In fact, the commentators will say it. They'll be like, "Wow, look at that! P1 through P7, all separated by 1 second only." And I understand that. Like, it makes it
Yeah.
seem like the field is closer, but the field really is not closer. Like, I maybe in one lap pace, yes. And qualifying is certainly more exciting.
Yeah, but
Like,
over a race, I'm telling you, people used to be
yeah,
lapped 2, 3, 4 times.
yeah,
At least everyone's finishing on the lead lap now.
yeah. I guess that's true, but it's still like you're right. The field has gotten closer, and yet somehow it feels like it hasn't because there's one guaranteed winner every race. The
Yeah.
only way we can think of Red Bull not winning a race is if they get set up horrendously wrong, or if one of their
Yeah.
cars crashes out and Perez messes up his qualifying. That's the only way I can consider that another car will win. Like, I can't think of any other way. So, and it's been like that for so long. Like, it's been like that since the second half of 2022. Almost all of 2023, and then of course
Yeah.
now this year. So I don't remember it being
I've
like
told you
this
how to
when
fix
Lewis was
F1.
winning.
It's all got to be
Make the car
fix the
smaller.
tracks.
Yeah.
Fix the tracks, make the car smaller, and then don't let them change the settings on the car for 4 races at a time. So, like, you've got to go to Monza and Monaco with the same setup. And so you've got to decide, am I winning this one? Am I winning that one? Am I compromising to be like, do okay at both?
Yeah, the compromise isn't there, even with the tire setup and like when we're gonna pit. Like in Saudi, everybody was like on a start medium and then hard. Like literally nobody.
Yeah.
Like that was it. And when you have two drivers and you start them both on the same tire, that there's not a lot of room for experimentation. So, but I don't know. I don't know if it was a bad tire deg in this race. I don't know if it was the track itself. I don't know if it was the field getting closer. I don't know what happened, but the fact that you could have Kevin Magnussen holding up the rest of the field, going like 2 seconds slower, and then still pit and still like serve his penalty and finish like only one position behind, is ridiculous. The fact that you can have Lewis Hamilton and Lando Norris on these brand new softs or relatively new softs and not able to overtake the people on very old hards in front of them is insane. And it's just like it makes the race boring. It makes F1 boring, honestly. If somebody were to watch that race and tell me like I'm not into F1, seems like a pretty boring sport, I would not disagree with them. But I can't remember because I had rose-colored glasses on. So give me the unbiased perspective. I say that with our Mercedes shirts. Was it this bad in 2017, 18, 19, 20? I think you're muted, so I'll never know the answer.
I've unmuted myself. I think the thing is, while Nico Rosberg was around, you'd go into each weekend and you'd be like, of course Lewis is going to win. And then every now and again, Nico would win. And you'd be like, oh, okay. So that kept things
like
interesting. Yeah. And then I think the other thing with, like, let's say Lewis versus the Ferrari, like Vettel stuff, I would divide the seasons into two. I think the first half of the season, it'd be a very like, oh, is Ferrari doing better? Is Lewis doing better? What's happening? And then Lewis would get into his groove of the car and be like, oh, okay, this is how we want to set it up. And then he would dominate the second half of the year. Which it never felt like Lewis dominated the first half of the year. In the first half, it always felt like there was competition. And then there'd be a point where he's like, I'm going to win 4 races in a row now. But maybe because we're Lewis fans, we just enjoyed all the winning and we didn't notice it being boring or not. But yeah, I think it's problematic. Max having no competition at all. Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder at what point the sport steps in. I guess 2026 is the answer. I wonder if part of the reason they haven't done anything is because they're like, yeah, we're making a big change in 2026 anyway. The one good thing I hope to take out of it is Ferrari does have a track record of building good engines. So, it's not guaranteed that Mercedes
sometimes they're
will run
illegal
away.
as well.
I'm hoping for the illegal one this time. Just for while Lewis is there, give me some rule-breaking competition, please.
But the other thing that gives me hope about Lewis's future is you look at the gaps and things. So corner entry, Ferrari and Red Bull are pretty similar. It's corner exit. Red Bull is clearly ahead of everyone.
Yeah.
But Mercedes is nowhere. And they've got this like continuous porpoising problem. Even though like, look, we've changed the concept of the car. It's like, oh, look, it's still porpoising. Maybe our tools aren't right. Maybe our wind tunnel doesn't show porpoising.
Oh my God, I hate it so much.
And they're like, right, we need to deal with these fundamental concepts and blah, 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 blah. And to me, all of that just sounds like they're so far away from ever competing for a championship.
At least in this era.
Yeah, I'm getting more and more excited for the Lewis move.
Yeah,
of course, it's a gamble. Of course, you don't know what's going to happen. But I feel staying at Mercedes would be like a quiet whimper to the end of his career.
Yeah,
whereas
definitely.
At least if he goes to Ferrari, it's I'm going down swinging.
Yeah, no, I fully agree with you. Whatever trepidations and reservations I had earlier are all gone at this point because like what they're clear Mercedes, as correct as they got the last era of regulations, they have gotten this regulations that much wrong. Like they just never understood this era correctly. Even with James Allison back, they never understood how to make this one work. And so if I were them, I would have honestly given up and just said we're going to focus on 2026 from now. There's no point for the next 2 years trying to fix this car. We're not going to turn it around dramatically and have a race.
But that's the thing. You know, this whole like, let's focus on 2026. The reason they're in this problem is because the tools they have, the wind tunnel data, the computational data, none of that is showing them this bouncing. And they're like, oh, it's a bit like Carlos Sainz explained at the beginning of the year, you know, after the first race, like, you know, we do all this data and this and that and testing, but we'd never realized what happens to the brake ducts when we run them in dirty air.
Yeah.
And that's why our brakes were overheating and this and that and whatever. Mm-hmm. So it's like there's a huge gap between their simulated data and real life data. And unless you can get your tools right, then there's nothing to say, we're going to get the next set of rules right. It'll just be luck at that point.
Yeah. I suppose that's true. I don't know what else to say then, except I'm happy we're leaving Mercedes. It does give me a little bit of like nostalgia looking at Mercedes road cars. I'm like, you know, I could have afforded you. Cannot afford a Ferrari, but I could have afforded a Mercedes.
Yeah. You can get an old Ferrari for like £10,000.
But are they like good, or will they break down on me?
No,
they're not good.
But they'll.
They're not good. It'll look fancy sitting in your driveway, a red Ferrari from the 80s. It's not working. And you
look at it, and if you look at it wrong, it'll just suddenly fall apart.
Well, you know what's interesting about these fancy cars? So my friend, when he got married a few months ago, rented a McLaren to like take to drive to and from the wedding hall. A lot of people do like things like they get like the fancy car. But he was telling me like you could just tell this is a car that hasn't been maintained. Like the brakes weren't the best, the steering wasn't the best. Everything seemed kind of like it's clear that this is a rental car that people drive, like random people who don't know how to drive. They drive this car, and so the owner doesn't really take care of it. So there's probably a lot of cars like that I could just buy and have, and they wouldn't be very good. But at least I'd have them. Yeah, I'd never drive them.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. Shall we continue with our lives?
What else is...
Go to bed.
Oh yes. Well, let's fast forward a little bit to Australia.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna be awake for it. Coincidentally,
me too. So the qualifying will be my last night, so I'll watch it during work. But then the race, because I just won't transition back to days that soon, so I'll stay on, and then I'll watch it, and it'll be very exciting. What time is it for you?
Yeah, it'll be 4 a.m.
No, it's 1 a.m. for us, so not that much better. But
you mean you can like live tweet along or do some live commentary or something?
Maybe. You know, Australia, usually Mercedes does better. Even in this era of regulations, we've done better in Australia. So do you think there is a chance we could see a Mercedes on the podium? Third place.
Oh, okay, on the podium?
Let's
sure.
be real.
Yeah,
third,
podium. Yeah, of course.
Nothing higher than third.
Nothing higher than third. Yeah. I think that's the thing. I think... ignoring Red Bull, if you said, hey, do you think Aston Martin, Mercedes, Ferrari, or McLaren could end up on the podium? I'd say, yeah, of course, any of them could.
It's like when that fan ran into Charles Leclerc, or like when he was in the car and he was like, P2 today, huh? Or P3 today, huh? And then Charles Leclerc's like, yeah. Wait, why not P1? It's because we know. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen.
Exactly.
All right, guys. That was our episode. We'll have an episode for you after Australia, more on time, because neither of us will be on nights. Right? You're not on nights, are you? No. And I'm not on nights either. So that'll
I'll
be
just
good.
be awake for Fudger.
Yeah, I'll be awake too for like life purposes because I won't be able to sleep. And we'll see you all. Bye.